Speech is about computer technology without being, I hope, too difficult. I'd like you to imagine the following scenario. You take a piece of paper, it doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how thick, and you fold it in two, and fold it in two again, and again, and again. After 7 or 8 folds, you will be unable to continue, because the paper will be then as thick as a book. If you could get as far as 20 folds, then the paper would be as tall as a house. And if you could get to 40 folds, then you would fill the space between the moon and the earth. Now that, in very simple terms, is what in mathematics is known as exponential growth. And it's a concept which is almost entirely used in mathematics because in nature such growth doesn't continue for very long. Nonetheless, over the last 30 years, the manufacturers of computers have truly introduced exponential improvements to their products. It's as if the electronic engineers had managed to fold their piece of paper about 15 times. But all good things must come to an end, and it would appear that we're getting close to the limits of today's computer technology. Let me explain why. Using the development of Britain's railway system as an illustration, in 1830 there were just 37 kilometres of track. 10 years later, twice as much, and then every 10 years for the next 60 years the amount doubled. At that rate, a forecaster in the 19th century may have expected that today there would be track all over the country. But that's not the case. A point was reached where the cost of laying extra track to small villages could not be recovered from the goods or persons who would be carried on that line. So economic forces reached a point of equilibrium. And a similar combination of economic and physical factors is likely to bring an end to the improvements which have been introduced into computer chips. To go back to the image I used at the beginning of folding paper, each fold in the technology paper is increasingly expensive and difficult to engineer. Silicon chips have space limits. Every time you increase the capacity of the computer, you have to reduce the size of the components. And although computers use very little electricity, even a small current going through a tiny component generates a great amount of heat, which is very difficult to evacuate. So although companies are not keen to invest in a completely new technology at this stage, until it is clear that the potential of today's technology has been exhausted, there will be no more major improvements until a new technology has been found. This may involve the use of optical fibres or laser beams or chemicals. What is certain is that the computer industry will not stand still, and that the company which comes up with a